I know.
We have to keep on time. All right. Give everybody a chance.
Okay, everybody.
And there's more chairs.
You guys have been fantastic so far. I really appreciate your continued attention. And we've got one more this morning. It's been a busy morning. And we're going to get going with the Board of Legislators District 1. We have Mr. Colin Smith and Mr. Frank Catalina. They have drawn lots ahead of time as this morning. So they'll be going forward with their opening statements. These gentlemen get a minute and a half for their opening and closing statements. Again, those will be done in the same order. They get a minute and a half to answer each question, and we'll be alternating that just as we have been. So Mr. Smith is going to be starting with his opening statement.
Good morning, everyone, and let me stand.
You can.
How's that better? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today, and it's great to see this many people in the community come out and show support for the candidates and for the process. For those who don't know me, my name is Colin Smith. I reside here in Peekskill. I'm born and raised here. Currently sit on the Peekskill Common Council. By profession, I am an attorney. I went to the Peekskill schools here, graduated from law school at Pace University down in White Plains back in 2003. From my graduation in law school, I was at the Bronx District Attorney's Office where I started my legal career. And since then, I've been doing mainly criminal defense work for the last 13 years. So it's exciting for me to be here today. I've enjoyed serving my community over the last 8 years, 6 of them on the school board and now coming up on 2 years in the council. That's what I'm about. I'm about service, I'm about the community, and I'm looking forward to serving the community if I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the county legislature, and continue my good work there. And before we get started, I just want to wish a good luck to all the candidates. This is my opponent here, Mr. Catalina, and that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Catalina, your statement.
Well, first of all, thank you for hosting this, and thank you all for coming out so early on a Saturday. I guess it was early when this started. My name is Frank Catalina. I don't know if anybody here knows. I used to be mayor here for 4 years. When I took off, I can tell you where I went to high school, Peekskill High School, class of '75. I can tell you all about my education, but I'm a lawyer. I've been practicing law in Peekskill for 38 years. I have a partner who's my daughter, and it's very good that she came with me 7 years ago because she told me all the things I've been doing wrong for the 30 years before she got there. She left me in May to have a baby, and I'm not really sure about maternity leaves, but apparently this one is going to last into next year. And I can't argue with her because she's my daughter. I became mayor of the city. I've held every single legal position in the city of Peekskill except judge. I was a deputy corporation counsel, I was a prosecutor, attorney for the planning, zoning, all boards of the city of Peekskill, culminating with being the corporation counsel back in '99, 2000. I've served under 5 mayors of the city of Peekskill. I've lived here virtually all my life, except for the years when I was married and we raised our children over in Monroe. But I came back after my wife's death and have always come here for work. I took office in the city of Peekskill at a time when the city was about 2 to 3 months.
Thank you. So you might as well stay standing. We kind of ran into this in the last year. So our first audience question, and this is written as a yes or no question, but I think they'd like you to expound a little bit more. Will you keep gun show out of the county center?
Yes.
Like to add to that?
No. Unless if people want me to. I mean, this is something that's been controversial. It was a big thorn in the side of our former county executive. And, when I operated as mayor in Peekskill, I was a minority mayor. I could not get anything done unless we could peel off 2 or 3 votes from the other side. And, and that's how I operate. And if the county legislature is against it, some things are worth fighting for. New development, lower taxes, decreased regulation, things like that. But little things like that, which are a big thing to people, I don't think it's worth using up a lot of political capital for. There's more important things. Take a walk down through Playland and see how how terrible it is. It needs a lot of work and a lot of improvement. Take a walk down at Blue Mountain Park, a county park. It's absolutely a disgrace. So those are the things worth fighting for, not who rents out the county center for a weekend, in my opinion.
Okay, so I concur with Mr. Catalina. I am in favor of keeping the ban from the gun show in the county center. And I think that there's good reason for that, not just because the majority of the legislature happens to currently hold that same position, but I think that in today's society, with the increased explosion in gun violence, I think that we as a society need to do everything we can to send the message that while gun ownership is certainly something that is right under the Constitution, the proliferation of guns is what we're fighting against. And so on those grounds, I would not be in favor of lifting that ban.
You can stay standing because you're next. Yeah, when you're alternating just two, right? Okay, so as we look forward to the 2020 census, we're mindful it's important to have an accurate count because it's connected to funding and how districts are drawn up. What would you do to ensure we will get an accurate count, and what will you do to push back against gerrymandering and redlining?
I thought you were going to give me a hard question. So I think, measures are already underway with regards to the 2020 census. There's census takers. There's in Westchester County, I know there's a great there's already a network in place to hire on census takers and to make sure that we get accurate counts across the community, because, as you say, it affects funding. And of course, it also affects the other issues you mentioned with respect to redistricting. What I would do to ensure that is to, as a county legislator and at the local level, is to continue to work with the federal government, with the Census Bureau, to make sure that we have as much, they have the resources, the human capital that they need to ensure that an accurate census is taken, and that people who maybe don't feel comfortable, we find ways to reach people. I mean, I think that's the biggest challenge is finding ways to reach people. Now there's a variety of ways electronically. It's not just door to door anymore. So we have to make sure that there's people that can fit those slots, and that can make sure that we reach out to everybody and make them feel safe in giving the information, and not feel like they may be in jeopardy by giving that information. So,
Mr. Catalina.
Sorry. Just repeat the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
So as we're looking forward to the 2020 census, we're mindful it's important to have an accurate count because it's connected to funding and how districts are drawn up. What will you do to ensure we get an accurate count, and what will you do to push back against gerrymandering and redlining?
Okay, so I absolutely agree it's important to have an accurate count. New York State has lost seats over the past 20 years, and I believe, as does our current governor, that we've lost those seats as a result of inaccurate counting, not loss of population. If it were up to me, I think the county can spend some money to actually hand out some money to the communities where paid volunteers can go out and help get an accurate census count. I don't know if they have a budget for it, but I think that's something that they can do. I mean, we have candidates who pay people to go out and get their signatures on their petitions. Certainly government can pay to get an accurate count, so we as New Yorkers do not lose congressional seats as a result of that accurate count. As far as the gerrymandering, I don't know. I mean, our district goes from Montrose all the way out Route 6 to I believe the Somers line. So it takes an hour on a Saturday morning to travel the district just to drive there, let alone stopping and campaigning or stop and shopping. So it's I don't know who drew that district, but God bless them. It's gerrymandering's. Some of the congressional seats stretch from Sullivan County through Orange County over into Dutchess, and they have to get 65,000 people, I guess, for each of the legislative districts. So I don't really know how they sit and do that. Hopefully, I'll be a part of it, unless it's done this year before next year.
Thank you.
So,
stay standing. What are your top 3 priorities if elected?
Well, this district, Drew Claxton was a councilwoman in Peekskill for, almost 20 years or so. She had a phrase, environmental and social justice. And I really, to be truthful, I didn't really get it until you sit and look at this district. I'm not going to say we're the dumping ground for Westchester County, but We burn every piece of garbage that every community discards. We get truck traffic up here that's unbelievable every day. We have a sanitary sewer district that serves a large part of the county, right down behind Dunbar Heights. We have the Indian Point Power Plant, which thankfully is going to close, but is going to be a contaminated waste area for generations. We have the AIM pipeline that's coming through. These things are serious, and now we have proposals by the county to fund a great expansion of our homeless shelter. I believe every community has an obligation to take care of their homeless shelter. Peekskill had a shelter for about 30 years, and it's a 12 to 15 bed facility. I ran the Rotary meal program every week. We served somebody there, and I ran that program for 3 years and served a lot of meals there. I don't think we ever were at capacity down there. So I think Peekskill is doing its part to take care of its homeless. I don't think the county should be closing facilities in Mount Vernon, White Plains, New Rochelle, and then giving $1 million to a private organization to greatly expand our shelter to 50 to 60 beds. So I don't believe we should be the dumping ground for that.
Okay. Top 3 priorities?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Catalina named some pretty important issues. In my opinion, there's the environment, there's the economy, obviously, taxes, and jobs. And I think with respect to the environment, one of the biggest, the looming crisis that we're facing in this district is the shutdown of Indian Point, the decommissioning process, which is starting to get underway, and the many issues surrounding that. Most of which, from a decision standpoint, are made at the state and federal level, but with respect to the impact that has on the local communities, I feel that the county really can and should do more to